This is Art Sense, a podcast focused on educating and informing listeners about the past, present, and future of art. I'm Craig Gould. This week's episode spends the hour trying to get a better understanding of NFTs and how they're changing the landscape of the art world. First up, I speak with Zack Yanger, Senior Vice President of Business Development at SuperRare. Zack will provide us a great overview of the NFT space, as well as a first-hand account of the early NFT industry and opinions about what's on the horizon. In the second segment, I speak with Noah Davis, Head of Digital Sales at Christie's. In his role at Christie's, Noah serves as a conduit between the emerging NFT space and the traditional art world, which has resulted in his organizing some of the biggest NFT auctions on record. In the conversation, we discuss the qualities of a good NFT, the complexities of his role, and where the NFT market is headed. At the end of the episode, I'll be taking a look at some of the week's top art headlines. But first up, a crash course on NFTs with Zack Yanger. Zack Yanger, thank you for joining me today on the podcast to talk about NFTs. So can you help define for our listeners what an NFT is?
Yeah, for sure. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. And essentially what that means is it's a cryptographic token that represents ownership of a unique asset. And so the way you can kind of think about it is if you look at like Bitcoin, for instance, Bitcoin is a fungible asset because if you have one Bitcoin and I have one Bitcoin, we can trade them and there's no difference between your Bitcoin and my Bitcoin. With a non-fungible token, it essentially represents ownership of a unique asset like a digital artwork or an audio file or a plot of virtual land. And essentially each NFT has its own underlying value that's completely separate of all other NFTs in existence. And so if I have an NFT that represents one artwork and you have an NFT that represents another artwork, we wouldn't necessarily trade them because the underlying values can differ based on who the artists are and a number of other different factors. And so, the technology's been around for 5-6 years now, but Ethereum, the blockchain, was the first to really bring it mainstream and really kind of create an actual market for NFTs.
How is it that the blockchain is so tightly connected to this notion of the unique asset? Is it because the blockchain can help demonstrate authenticity?
Yeah, so it's a number of things. So the creation of the internet made it basically impossible for digital artists and creators to, one, prove that they created something, and two, monetize it, because everything put on the internet could be freely downloaded. We saw with the music industry that, the internet played a large part in, musicians making far, far less money from being able to sell their audio tracks because audio became freely downloadable on the internet. And so we have this entire segment of creators and artists that are digital creators, and what they create lives natively on the internet. And so for this group of creators, there's never been a way to monetize digital artworks or creations outside of, putting them on an Instagram or a Facebook. On one hand, the internet, opened up an entire world to artists and allowed them to gain massive followings around the globe. But it also, made it to where anything they put on the internet, they would never be able to monetize again. And so Ethereum and the non-fungible token standard, it was actually called ERC 721, made very big strides towards solving this problem, because for the first time ever, a digital creator now has the ability to register their digital creation as a one-of-a-kind asset that can be bought, sold, and traded on the blockchain with the provenance of ownership and previous bids and sales being ever recorded on the blockchain as well. And so essentially, what is mainly being recorded on the blockchain is that provenance of the token and the previous ownership of the token. So every bid that's placed on the artwork, every previous collector, every time the artwork is transferred, all of those different things throughout an artwork's history is all recorded on the blockchain in the token's history. And that goes a long way towards showing kind of that underlying value of the token.
That's an issue that the traditional art world's been dealing with for a very long time, which is trying to prove authenticity through provenance. And sometimes people are able to demonstrate provenance in that maybe isn't necessarily even legitimate, or they have an asset that looks authentic, but they don't have any provenance. And so it seems like there's a natural fit for NFTs to play a role in the traditional art market at some point, right?
Yes, I definitely think so. I think, we're already seeing lots of the big art auction houses and galleries starting to implement blockchain for provenance of, all of these historical paintings. And, really, it solves the provenance problem, but it also solves, like you just mentioned, the fake problem. And so essentially, in the future, there's going to be billions and billions and billions of NFTs in existence. And how do you prove one NFT is authentic over another? And the reason that it's easy to be able to prove the authenticity of each token is because you can track back in the history of that token and the provenance to the original minting date and time and wallet address. And so each artist on SuperRare, they each have their own accounts connected to their own wallet. And so when they mint a new artwork, it's being minted directly from their wallet. So in the future, if you own one of these tokens, you'll always be able to look back in the history and see that it originated from the artist's unique wallet address that only they have access to. So it's impossible to create a fake token that has real provenance, if that makes sense.
Sure. So can we talk a little bit about how the current NFT market is sort of segmented? Like, in my mind, there's, I guess for lack of a better word, the NFT profile pick group, which is kind of like CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, etc. Digital art, whether that's static or video, collectibles, whether that's Marvel, DC, sports collectibles. Am I missing somebody there? Or does that seem to be how things are kind of separated out?
Those are definitely, three of the big categories. There's collectibles. There's, I would, technically probably list like the profile pick projects as collectibles projects as well.
Okay.
But then there's crypto art, which essentially, to be considered crypto art, the actual creator needs to be the person that mints the token. The provenance needs to all be recorded on chain, and the artists basically need to be paid instantly as part of the transaction happening on the blockchain. Outside of crypto art, there's now a lot happening in the music space. There's audio NFTs now. There's virtual land is a very big one that we're seeing as actually one of the best use cases of crypto art, because many of like the biggest collectors in the space are collecting specifically for virtual museums and virtual galleries that they've built, that in the future they'll be able to monetize access to these virtual galleries. And so virtual land and the ability to build a gallery on that land, that's a very big use case as well. And then, there's new use cases and projects, popping up every day. I think there's a lot of really cool things happening with programmable art, which, technically it would fit under the crypto art umbrella, but it's a little different than just, a JPEG or a video file minted. With programmable art, there could be different layers that, maybe the artwork changes based on the weather or based on the price of Bitcoin or based on a number of other factors. The artwork can actually change over time based on who owns it, and things like that. We're also seeing a big amount of interest in generative art, which essentially it's created using code where the code actually determines what the artwork will become once it's minted. And so there's a lot of really cool stuff happening. I think that, over this next year, we're going to continue to see many more use cases pop up. I think there's a lot that's going to be done with audio. But yes, those are the main ones that have really, seen success so far.
So you work at SuperRare. Well, what does SuperRare see as its role or niche in the NFT market?
Yeah, sure. So SuperRare was the first ever digital art marketplace to launch on Ethereum that allowed artists to mint their own tokens directly. Launched back in early 2018. And we made the decision, very early on to focus on single edition artworks. And so that's one of the main differentiators with SuperRare, is that every artwork on SuperRare is a one-of-one artwork. And so what that means is that only one person in the world at any given time can own that token. On most other platforms, there's the option to do what's called multi-editions, where, similar to like a print, in the traditional art world, an artist can make, say, 100 copies of this token, and 100 different people can own that artwork. And so we really made the decision to lean into the single edition market early on, and it led to SuperRare, kind of becoming part of like the high end of the art space. That being said, we recently made a big announcement around decentralizing the curation on SuperRare via our governance token. And so heading into the future, we're really seeing SuperRare as the place where galleries and art collectives will be able to set up their own storefronts within our umbrella of collectors and community. But, at the end of the day, what I think really stands out about SuperRare is the trust factor that we've built up with collectors in the space. SuperRare is definitely the most trusted platform, I think, when it comes to collecting, just because, we do a lot of work to verify that the creators on SuperRare are actually the people they say they are. We've seen it happen a couple times now where, platforms have been actually tricked, and, a person pretending to be a well-known artist was able to, get access and mint something. And so we do a lot of work just to make sure that everything is authentic and that the works that the collectors are buying are actually from the creators that they say they are. And so I think that, that plays a big factor in SuperRare. The last thing is just, the provenance factor that I've talked a bit about. So the way that SuperRare is set up, every bid, every sale, every transfer, everything that happens in the artwork's history is all recorded on chain in the artwork's history, in a way that if the SuperRare website was to shut down tomorrow for any reason, all of the tokens are still completely safe. All of the provenance is still completely safe. All the tokens are interoperable and can be traded on any other marketplace like OpenSea. And so, we're really trying to help artists create NFTs that will still be in existence 100 years from now. And so, if you look at a lot of, the other platforms in the space, they don't take the provenance factor as seriously. I think if, any platform where you're accepting US dollars, for instance, there's no way that those bids are able to be recorded on chain. And so that's a big part of why we're crypto native, and all of the transactions and purchases happen in crypto, because that's how those transactions are able to be recorded in the piece's provenance. So like, let's say if you're doing a auction in US dollars on, a different platform, you could have 10 of the most influential people in the world bidding each other up on this artwork. But at the end of the day, all that's actually going to show with the token on chain is the winning bid and winning collector, and all of that amazing bidding history. Yes, it'll show on the company's website, but if their website goes down, it's not actually attached to the token. And so when buying a SuperRare artwork, you're really buying much better technology and provenance than is really available elsewhere.
Well, I guess this is the billion-dollar question, but looking forward, how do you think this market will evolve?
Yeah. So, I think that it will evolve in many ways. I think that we're going to see, I strongly believe that we're going to see a lot of the value flow to one-of-one single edition artworks. I think right now there's definitely a bit of like a bubble craze happening in like the collectibles realm, where it's in a way kind of more, gambling. It's much easier to buy a collectible based on, specific attributes than it is to, have an artistic eye and be able to pick out, an artwork that's going to go up in value. And so it's just a kind of a different game, if you will. And I think that, we're going to see a lot more volume flow into the one-of-one market as more of the traditional art world comes into the space, and just as, more and more money comes into the space. I think that we're also going to see, right now it's kind of this big, divided market of, different marketplaces that are all kind of doing different things. They all have different, royalty standards. And I think that we're going to see a lot of aggregation to where, artists' stats, for instance, like right now, artists have an average on SuperRare, an average on Maker's Place, an average here. But there's nowhere where you can go and see, what's the artist's average sale price? How many artworks have they created everywhere? There's no way where the stats have been aggregated correctly yet. And so I think that that's coming very soon. And then I also think that there's going to be a big move towards artists minting from their own smart contracts. So like right now, most artists mint from a marketplace's contract, like SuperRare or Nifty Gateway or whatever, marketplace they mint under. We're actually over the next week going to be basically giving artists access to create their own contracts on SuperRare. But I think that in the future, it's going to become much less about the platform that the artwork was minted on, and it's going to become more about the artist that minted it. And we'll see a lot more artists using their own custom contracts.
Do those custom contracts, is that attractive to the artist because they can customize more add-ons for the buyer, like these different bonus features per se for buying a particular NFT? Is that part of the attraction there?
Yeah, so that's definitely part of the attraction, is just more ability to customize the releases in creative ways. And then also just, I think it also helps with provenance. Additionally, just, if artists all start having their own smart contracts, it then becomes even easier to verify authenticity of tokens based on whether or not they, came from the artist's contracts. And so like right now, artists, if they mint a token on SuperRare, it's a SuperRare NFT. But once we launch these custom smart contracts for artists, X copy, instead of minting a SuperRare NFT, could mint an X copy NFT. So they can actually like name what the tokens are called. They can decide what the royalty is going to be on the token and different things like that. So it just makes it more customizable for the artist.
So is there a specific hurdle out there that needs to be overcome to drive the next wave of growth in this market?
Yeah, I think that, it's definitely a lot still needs to be done when it comes to education. The technology just, in the last 3 years has improved significantly. And I think over the next 3 years, we're going to see the technology improve exponentially. And as the technology continues to improve, a year from now, using platforms like SuperRare is going to be no harder than using Instagram or using Facebook. Right now, the main thing is just the barriers to entry for somebody that's completely new to crypto is fairly high to on one hand understand what is an NFT, why does an NFT have value, but then to also understand by purchasing that NFT with crypto, getting the crypto, setting up wallets. And so I think that a big thing that's starting now and that will continue is more education. We're planning to do a lot of webinars for people that are interested in getting into the space. But there's definitely a lot that still needs to happen in terms of educating non-crypto users. That being said, there's the NFT market is still very small in comparison to all of crypto overall. MetaMask alone has like 5-6 million users. And right now SuperRare has about 4,500 users, to give you an example. And so there's massive room to grow just within the crypto space alone. But I still think that a big part of bringing things mainstream is going to be continuing to educate non-crypto people.
In my mind, there's still an enormous amount of growth capable, because when you kind of look at the curve of this year and what's gone on with the NFT market and how it has grown and pulled back and is slowly growing again, it looks a lot like what Gartner refers to as a hype cycle, which kind of tracks the reception and adoption of a new technology. If you look at that cycle, it looks like we're at that point where you're now getting to that slope where there's now a slow, steady growth. And, according to their chart, they say that point means that you've probably got about 5% adoption of the potential audience, right? And so we start thinking about how big the NFT space is in imagining that that's only 5% of the potential audience. The opportunity still seems enormous, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's as big as it feels being in the space every day, we're still a very long way off from where this is all going. I mean, if you go into any grocery store and ask everybody, do you know what an NFT is? It'd be very likely that, maybe 2% of the people in the grocery store, if that, could give you an actual answer. And so, I think that there's still, it's still a very small niche market in comparison to other markets. But the underlying tech, the community, the ability for artists to now earn royalties and actually do what they love full time. I think that it's pretty clear to me that this is all not going away, and that we're still very, very early.
What about the traditional art world? Is their participation in the NFT market necessary for long-term growth, or is it assumed that there will eventually be widespread adoption in that traditional art market? What's your feeling there?
Just this year, we've seen massive interest from the legacy art world in NFTs. All of the major auction houses, Christie, Sotheby's, Barron's, Phillips, they're all, doing nonstop NFT auctions now. They're all working hard to, get more artists and collectors from their end in the space. And, on our side, we're seeing just massive interest from artists and galleries, looking to leverage this new technology. I think that, we're over this next year, we're going to see, pretty much all of the major art galleries are going to have some sort of NFT solution, whether it's working through a platform like SuperRare or whether it's building, their own smart contracts in the future. That being said, I think that, there's a lot that still needs to happen on the side of the traditional art galleries and auction houses to do it the right way. Right now, for instance, a lot of these auctions that are happening with traditional art houses aren't actually taking place on chain because the auction houses don't want to limit, the auctions to just crypto users. And so essentially they do it in US dollars on their websites. And at the end of the day, it basically the artist just transfers the token to the winning collector and gets paid by the auction house. And really, like, that in a way kind of defeats the entire purpose of, what the technology is providing. That's one of, like, I think the most interesting things about SuperRare is just that, we're completely non-custodial. Like, we never take custody of anyone's art or anyone's money. Any sale that's happening is because the artist minted their artwork and a collector purchased it directly from their wallet. And that funds go instantly directly from the collector's wallet directly to the artist's wallet through a smart contract. And I think that, without that provenance and without using the tech to its fullest, we've had conversations with a lot of these auction houses, and I know that, they're working hard to implement the technology the right way. I think, in these beginning months for them, I think it's more just about experimenting, getting to know the community of artists and collectors and just kind of dipping their feet in. But we're going to see a lot more coming from the traditional art world very soon.
Some people have had questions about the blockchain and the efficiency of the particular blockchain that a lot of the transactions are on, related to both like environmental factors and the cost of what's referred to as gas fees. Can you talk a little bit about maybe where the market is headed in terms of combating some of those hurdles in terms of the environment and the cost to mint?
There is a lot of misinformation out there about the energy consumption that's taking place. At the end of the day, to mint an artwork on a platform like SuperRare and sell it is going to use a fraction of the carbon emissions that you would use to print an artwork, frame the artwork, get a space to sell it and set it up and do it. And so, to say that like NFT artists are, actually harming the planet, I think it's a big jump. There was some misinformation spread, many months back. It's definitely true that Ethereum is energy intensive. I'll try to, keep it as simple as I can, but the energy consumption corresponds to the electricity that miners are using to validate these transactions. And essentially, what that means is that miners are competing against each other in a computational race in order to earn the most ETH rewards. And at the end of the day, minting and trading NFTs, it doesn't actually increase Ethereum's carbon emissions. Ethereum has a fixed energy consumption at any given point in time. And so while the network is constantly processing transactions, whether it's a financial trade or an NFT mint, these transactions don't actually increase or affect the energy consumption of Ethereum. Basically, the total energy that's spent on mining on Ethereum, it depends on a relationship between the Ethereum price, which is the source of revenue for the miners, and the cost of the energy. So like the way I like to think about it, you can think of Ethereum kind of like a train engine that's throttled to the same speed all day, and it's running by the miners that are basically securing these transactions. In this analogy, transactions that are submitted to the network would be seats on this train. Basically, due to the design of Ethereum, the train's going to keep running at the same speed, whether there are with the same speed, with the same energy consumption, whether there are no seats filled or whether the train is packed. And so essentially today, if nobody was to mint an NFT, the same amount of carbon would be used on the Ethereum blockchain. And so, yes, it's not 100% ideal, but the goal is that everything is moving towards Ethereum 2.0, which will become proof of stake and completely remove the energy consumption altogether. That is ideally going to be happening early next year. And companies like ours and others are donating funds to Ethereum 2.0 development to help move that along as quickly as possible. And in the meantime, our platform and others are using we partner with a company called Ariel to offset our carbon emissions, but essentially we make donations each month that offset the amount of theoretical carbon emissions that are being used. But at the end of the day, NFTs being minted or not isn't going to affect the carbon usage of the Ethereum blockchain either way. And so we're seeing some other blockchains like Tezos as the first one that's really started doing interesting stuff with NFTs. At the end of the day, though, I think the market is going to stay where the collectors are. Collectors are on Ethereum. That's where they are. There are some collectors that have started collecting on Tezos, and if that continues, I could see there being bridges built between Ethereum and Tezos so that artists could have that option. But at the end of the day, it is just a short-term problem that is going to be completely solved with Ethereum 2.0.
Well, Zack, I think you've just about answered all my questions. One last question I had was, somebody was trying to tell me that you are actually the person that came up with the term crypto art. Is there any truth to the fact that you're that OG, that you're actually the person that came up with the phrase?
SuperRare was the first to start using crypto art and that term in any sort of marketing in this space. I have seen that somebody shared like a website, I don't remember, but there was some website URL from like 2014 that had crypto art in the URL. And so I can't claim that I'm the first person to ever say the term crypto art, but I can definitely say that SuperRare coined the term crypto art very early in all of this and was the first platform to ever use that word in any sort of marketing. There was actually, for a number of years, other platforms and others in the community, tried to push for different terms like NFT art and blockchain art and many others. But we always, held strong to crypto art, and we'll continue to. And so that's, it's exciting now to see, Christie's having a head of crypto art, but yeah, so a little bit of a long-winded answer. I can't confirm that nobody ever said the term before me, but I can definitely confirm that nobody ever used it in this space before us.
So early adopter, you were there at the infancy of it all, right? So
yeah, I was the first hire at SuperRare in 2018. Joined to basically build the community and the marketing side.
Well, imagine walking into a grocery store and asking somebody what an NFT was in 2018. Right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why this is all really exciting. Just, we, for more than 2 years, we're telling everybody this is going to be a thing. Many people laughed and said, nobody's going to ever buy NFTs. Nobody's ever going to buy digital art. And it doesn't make sense. You can already see it or download it. Like, there's no reason to buy the NFT. And it's just very validating to see so many amazing artists and art galleries now starting to just take this space seriously. So it's all very exciting times.
Well, hey, Zack, I really appreciate your time today and your willingness to kind of open up and help educate us and kind of give us a vision of where we are and where we're headed. And, I really appreciate you joining us.
For sure. It was great chatting. Happy to chat again sometime.
It seems like I often find myself in a conversation about why anything has a particular value. And my answer is that it comes down to three things: scarcity, authenticity, and appeal. Much of the excitement around NFTs comes from the fact that the technology can prove the scarcity and the authenticity. Well, that just leaves appeal. Do you like it? Do others like it? That can be hard to predict. But those NFTs that are scarce, authentic, and appealing have real value. They bring a sense of pride and intrinsic joy just to look at. But a question a lot of collectors have been dealing with is, how do I display my collection of NFTs? If looking at your NFTs makes you happy and brings you a sense of pride, then you need to get your NFTs onto your walls. And there is no easier or safer way to do that than with your Canvia. Canvia is the first commercially available digital art frame to provide a fully integrated solution for securely displaying NFTs directly from a user's crypto wallet. Regardless of whether your NFT is portrait or landscape, static or video, you can sync your MetaMask or other crypto wallet and immediately start displaying your NFTs on your Canvia. If you want to learn more about Canvia and its NFT display solutions, head over to canvia.art and check it out. And now, even more talk about NFTs with Christie's Noah Davis. So, Noah Davis, thank you for joining me today on the Art Sense podcast. I was thinking maybe the best place to start with you is maybe your opinion. What makes a good NFT?
A good NFT can only be an NFT. That's really my thesis. There are very many people who seem to think that an NFT can just be a one-to-one correspondence to something that already exists. But to my mind, that alchemy is really impossible to pull off in an authentic and meaningful way. Successful NFT projects have created community for people in a really unique way and a really organic way. So I think that there's a different kind of successful NFT for different kinds of projects. There are fine art NFTs, there are profile picture style NFTs, there are one-of-ones from crypto native artists, there are NFTs like the World Wide Web that Sotheby's sold that are really ingenious and basically solve for a problem that nobody even knew existed with some of these collectibles that are really intangible, like ideas. So I'm really interested in NFTs that are vital in that sense, that they cannot exist in any other way, shape, or form. If you wanna sell something and you can do it without involving NFT, then you should.
Right. So Christie's has really focused on primary sales to this point. I think we can both agree that your name adds market legitimacy in many cases. So how do you know you're choosing wisely?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think it comes with immersing myself in the space. I am very much a neophyte here and was previously pretty much a Luddite. So I'm still getting up on my feet with all of the technology and this new landscape. But I think that I find myself being drawn to people with a magnetic kind of pull. And when they have that community around them, when I can see this real engagement from their audience, that is a great signal to me. So I kind of trust that feeling. And of course, I haven't always made the best decisions. I mean, this has been a very steep learning curve in figuring out what works and what doesn't. And also in crypto and in fine art too, there's a lot of people who present as something that they may or may not be, in fact. So figuring out what is the signal and what is the noise is really important. And the only way to do that is to just be completely in it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to be in the Discord communities, on Twitter. I find that to be extremely helpful.
Absolutely.
Pretty much crucial, actually, I think. Pretty much crucial.
Sure. So an NFT is an asset, And Christie's has been auctioning assets of all types for 300 years. But where has the organization needed to be the most flexible in accommodating the sale of NFTs?
I mean, the answer to that is it's manifold. It's very, yeah, that's a lot. I think probably the strangest aspect of it all is the lack of an object, right? Usually we are selling something that very much exists, that we keep track of, that we shepherd through the process. You know, we keep it in our inventory, we photograph it, we catalog it, we present it in an exhibition, and then we ship it out to the new owner. None of that happens with NFTs. So managing the movement of these tokens, that's a very interesting new problem to solve for. And of course, also the cryptocurrency payments is brand new for us. There are all sorts of new questions around KYC from a lot of crypto native bidders. So sorting all of this out, figuring out what is a DAO.
Right.
All of these things have been hurdles for us. And it's definitely been a challenge, I think, for the support departments to keep up. And I'm so grateful to them for supporting me throughout this, because I really am basically a one-man army on the front lines of the NFT business. But I'm super well supported by people behind the scenes in credit and in finance and legal and compliance and post-sale, you name it.
So do you feel like this whole process of dealing with this new type of asset is actually kind of changing the way Christie's does business? I mean, do you think there will be long-term changes organization-wide based on the needs of selling an asset like this?
100%. Yeah, 100% I do, because I believe that this marketplace is going to be around for the foreseeable future, for forever. When the kids get it instinctively, you know, when you see kids buying skins on Fortnite, for example, and I've bought skins on Fortnite. You know, I get this stuff. I'm 32 years old, but I'm like 32 going on 15, I guess. But when the kids get it instinctively, you can bet that this is the wave. This is going to be the future. So I really do think that the next generation, Gen Z, when they come of art collecting age, will gravitate more naturally towards an intangible asset, because tangible assets are really cumbersome. I think of this. There's this one Barbara Kruger picture that I think about a lot recently, where it says it's this gigantic printed image, and I can't remember what the image is, but the statement, you know, the Barbara Kruger big billboard statement is, you can't take it to the grave with you, or you can't carry it with you when you die, something along those lines.
Right.
And that makes me think about the absurdity, the inherent absurdity of things. And I get that. I mean, a lot of my clients just, they don't have any interest in stuff. Meta Coven, the guy who bought Beeple, does not have a permanent address. You know, he doesn't own a car. He just owns crypto and NFTs and land, real estate in the metaverse. So I see that as the future for it's not going to be the sort of curiosity or you know, outer limits of ownership. Like, that's going to be the bedrock.
So can you talk a little bit more about the types of bidders that you are seeing participating in these particular digital art sales?
Yeah. So the audience definitely skews younger, no surprise there. And these are people who are mostly tech savvy, or they have kids who are really tech savvy. It's a very global audience. There are certain enclaves of places that are very crypto friendly on the globe, where it's not surprising to see bidders there. But I am impressed by how global this marketplace is, and generally speaking, a lot younger than our traditional audience. One of the bidders on Beeple above $1 million is 20 years old. So I mean, that's pretty remarkable. At Beeple, in generally speaking, is a very, very shocking illustration of the bidding pool here. There were more than 40 people who placed bids on Beeple. 20 of them bid above $1 million, and only 3 of the total bidders were previously known to Christie's. So, for the most part, completely brand new audience, and that's pretty astonishing.
In the business world, there's a term called market cannibalization. Market cannibalization is a loss in sales caused by a company introducing a new product that takes away from the revenue of their older products. Do you think that the fear of market cannibalization will dissuade organizations like yours from promoting NFTs from the typical roster of traditional art world artists? In other words, do you feel inclined to only offer new digital artists in order to bring in new money from new bidders?
No. I think the NFT is what I'm looking at. I really am focused on the art and the collectible, the asset, whatever it is that the NFT represents. That's what I'm thinking about first and foremost. There are plenty of artists, fine artists with a capital F and an A, I guess, that have released successful projects so far. Damien Hirst and Tom Sachs jump to mind. And I certainly would love to handle those objects in the right context and at the right time. It's not something that I worry about. The fear that I see, that I sense from other parts of the art world, I think comes from this sort of anticipation that blockchain technology, which is the underlying technology that facilitates NFTs, that is going to disrupt their business model tremendously. And that's true. That I had this epiphany moment, light bulb moment, when I was researching the CryptoPunks. We sold a grouping of 9 CryptoPunks from Larva Labs in our evening sale, and I spent hours just trolling their website, the Larva Labs website. Their site is such an amazing illustration of what blockchain can do. How you can see not only where every punk currently resides, the wallet where that punk is. You can see how it got there. You can see what bids are being placed in real time. You can see what bids are being accepted or rejected. It's really fascinating. If a marketplace like that existed, or a tool like that existed for Pablo Picasso or Andy Warhol, it would solve for so many problems. It would solve for authenticity testing. It would solve for record keeping. You could include the literature references and exhibition history and even restoration history, title claims. All of that can be recorded on the blockchain, but also the financial stuff. And when that's all publicly available in a anonymized, decentralized way, I mean, that completely changes the business model for everybody. And God knows that this business, the art business, is driven largely by this kind of I don't know, the person who knows where the bodies are buried is the one who's going to make out like a bandit. And if everyone knows where the bodies are buried, I mean, who's going to win? I love that. I think the potential there is so incredible. But some of the animus from the old guard, I think, is coming from a place of fear of change.
It seems like it's a fear of transparency and efficiency. I think some people's brands in the traditional art world are kind of built on I'm the insider with the inside knowledge, and I can I can identify the value, and I can put you in touch. But if all of that is very transparent, then some people would be prone to losing that value that they've kind of manifested over however many decades, right?
Yeah. It's very, very, very serious. So I think about this headline I saw recently. I think over the summer at some point. I saw that there was this hitman who got arrested in China. This businessman had hired a hitman to take out a rival businessman, and it's so funny that the hitman contracted it out, farmed it out to another hitman, like a subcontractor, and then that hitman subcontracted another guy. There were something like 8 or 9 different hitmen who were wrapped up in this thing. They all got caught in the dragnet. But I've seen private sales for $1 million art go down like that. where you think that you're talking to the buyer, but you're actually talking to somebody who's talking to somebody who's talking to somebody. And that's an incredibly inefficient and just frankly gnarly way to do business. So I think,
well, and each one of those people want their pound of flesh.
Right. And then you have, it's the big fish all the way down to the little fish kind of thing. And it's just a completely inefficient and kind of slimy way to do business. So I'm looking forward to the day where we have a blockchain for the art world, generally speaking, and for artists. And for artists, I'm excited for them to have smart contracts too, where you have this durable, indelible agreement in place that hopefully enforces itself. Because I don't know how much you've looked into what smart contracts can do, and artist resale royalties and these kind of things that the blockchain can solve for. It's really fascinating stuff.
So let me ask you this. There are some people in the space that complain that the bidding on these NFT sales at Christie should be taking place on the blockchain.
Yep. I'm one of those people.
Right. And so I guess that's my question. Are you considering, because there's, I think it's a reflection of everything we've just talked about. And I think some of the people will say, we're losing really valuable data in terms of maybe there's a bidding war between well-known collectors. We're losing a record of that by not having this take place on the blockchain. I assume you're fighting internally to try to make that. Maybe you can talk about obviously it sounds like you want that change. What hurdles are standing in your way?
Man, I think we're trying to move deliberately and methodically towards a fully on-chain experience for NFT auctions at Christie's. But of course, we're talking about a 250 going on 300-year-old company, and that old adage about the old dogs and new tricks is definitely true. But I am really impressed by how quickly the business has moved to accommodate these changes, and how there's a willingness to explore this new space. I think we'll get there, but there's all sorts of hurdles in the way. I mean, notwithstanding the fact that I'm the only NFT guy, and this is the tail end of a crazy pandemic, and we're all trying to get our bearings and come back to reality, and to ask everybody to help me build a completely new reality is, I understand that's a big ask. So I think we're going to get there to an on-chain kind of experience. We just want to make sure that we do it right, and that what we build is immaculate, basically.
So is participation by the traditional art world necessary for the long-term growth of the NFT market?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but I do think that there's going to be an entrance soon from various players. I know a lot of people are ready, for season 2, basically on the sidelines. Traditional collectors who have now set up wallets, or they've bought a bunch of ETH, or they've hired somebody to manage their collection that they're gonna create. So that is all really compelling to me. But that being said, it's not necessary. It's not the necessary thing for this market to thrive and to grow. Ultimately, I think the reason why we are selling NFTs at Christie's is because it's a very sophisticated and mature marketplace. Even though it's unpredictable and volatile, don't get me wrong, it's a total fiasco, really. But it's a crowd of people who really know what they're doing and know what they want to do. So I feel like it can only be additive to have people from the fine art space enter crypto and crypto art and NFT collecting, but it's not going to be the make or break thing to keep this party going. Right.
So looking forward, how do you think this NFT market's going to evolve?
I have no idea, my friend. I get this question obviously constantly, and I just like to say I don't have a crystal ball. If anything, I have a snow globe, and all I do is pick it up and shake it around. So that's what I can promise you, is that it will always be chaotic, and it will always be unpredictable. So if anybody tries to tell you what the marketplace is going to look like in 6 months, or even a couple weeks, I would be deeply skeptical of that person.
Right.
But what I can say is the reason why this is all super unpredictable is for a few reasons. I think it's this equation. I think about this all the time. For the people who are driving this marketplace, the collectors and the artists, people who have been really immersed in this stuff for a while, for them, the future does not exist. The future is an abstract concept that is completely irrelevant for them because the future is now, essentially, right? It's grandiose, but it's true. Like, people in the space think about the future as something that they're bringing into reality in media res. So when the future is now and the art doesn't exist and the money doesn't exist, quote unquote exist, when that's the equation, there's no way to predict what the outcome is. It's just impossible. So, but that's also what I find so rewarding and fascinating and stimulating about the space is that unpredictability and that chaos. So I guess it takes a certain type to really enjoy it.
Last question. So is there anything specific in your mind that might drive the next wave of growth, or better yet, are there any specific hurdles in your mind that need to be overcome before the next great wave of growth?
Yeah, what I'm hoping to see is mass adoption of crypto and decentralization, and that will probably happen when Bitcoin and Ethereum spike again and reach a kind of plateau where they stabilize, and it should bring a lot more people into the marketplace, as well as expand the buying power of the people who are already in it. So I mean, I'm hearing a lot of people saying crazy numbers for what Bitcoin and ETH will look like towards the end of the year, but you also see crazy growth happening with other chains and other crypto like Solana and Cardano. So I think it's going to be a really exciting fall, and if we do see an explosion in the value of crypto and the adoption of crypto, that will be the catalyst for the next wave, whatever the next wave is. And I think that this will all coincide nicely with a movement away from proof of work as the dominant mode for these blockchains to function, because proof of work is the reason why, for the most part, there is this environmental damage being caused by blockchain technology, and that's definitely something we need to work on. The space is actively trying to optimize itself and also solve for this problem. So I think with the advent of ETH2 and with these other proof of stake blockchains coming along, all of this is good. It's a very good sign. It means that we're nearly there. I know people have been saying Ethereum 2 is coming since 2017, but I am very encouraged by the London 1559 fork and all the ETH that's being burned now. It seems like something is nearly there. Something is going to happen soon, and yeah, I'm excited to see it. I hope it does not completely implode, but it could very well do that too.
So what's on the horizon? What do you guys have? A particular sale on the near horizon? I know that when I tried to reach out to you yesterday, you were in the middle of a studio visit. What's coming up for Christie specifically in terms of offerings?
Oh man, I'm excited. Okay, so we've got at the end of the month, actually since the end of the month is a week away, basically. In a week, we're going to open up the bidding on a single owner collection online sale in Hong Kong, based out of Hong Kong, called No Time Like Present. It's the collection of the actor Sean Yu. And amongst the awesome stuff, the watches and the George Condo painting and the fine art, right? There is also some extremely exceptional NFTs. There's going to be a CryptoPunk zombie and a couple of other 5 attribute punks that are really amazing, as well as some suited Bored Apes and Meebits. So those will be our first NFTs on offer in Hong Kong. The bidding opens in 1 week from today. And then in New York on October 1st, we're going to sell a full set of curio cards, including the misprint 17B. So full set of 30 plus 17B, and a full set of sets 1, 2, and 3 of art blocks curated, which were collected by the consignor, minted directly from the smart contracts. And those 2 lots will be offered as the first lots in the sale on October 1st in the post-order present sale. And we are going to conduct the bidding in a live format with an auctioneer in Ethereum. So that's a first. And I cannot wait for that, because I've been placing bids on behalf of clients for almost 10 years, and always in USD or fiat. And this is going to be the historic thing, I think. Placing bids in ETH is just that's indicative of how quickly we've made it to this point. From March to now. March was our first time ever accepting crypto, and now we're conducting the bidding for 2 of the top lots in a contemporary art sale in Ethereum. So that's really exciting. And then on October 6th, we're going to be selling Justin Aversano's Twin Flames, 1 NFT plus the 100 physical prints of the whole project, which he created for his show at Super Chief Gallery, I think in 2018. But that's going to be an amazing event. I mean, Justin is one of the best people that I've met in the space, and I just adore him as a friend, but also think that he's a brilliant artist. That's going to be the first photographic NFT that we offer. And it should be also a top lot in that sale. It's going to be the first lot in the afternoon session of the photography auction, the only NFT in that sale on October 6th. So we're moving a little bit beyond this sort of NFTs in their own kind of playground, in their own little sandbox, and peppering them into our regularly scheduled programming and our other sales. That's really important to me, to sort of bring it into our ecosystem. And yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, you're moving to prime time instead of the after school special, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's not like the sideshow. I want it to be part of the main event. And then we're gonna, in the fall, we haven't announced what we're doing in November or December, but there will be more sales. So we're gonna have a hell of a second season.
Awesome. So if folks wanted to keep track of those offerings, and they wanted to keep track of you, where would be the best place for folks to keep an eye on what's going on, maybe on your feed or, Christie's in general? Where are the best places online to look for you guys?
Definitely my Twitter. I am at non-fungible Noah on Twitter, and that's, for all intents and purposes, the official Christie's NFT announcements channel. So anything that we're doing with NFTs, I announce it there first, pretty much, and then it usually follows up with an official quote unquote post or tweets from the Christie's channels. But yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm tweeting about stuff, and I'm also on Discord too. I'm Noah the Poser on Discord, POSEUR. And I pop up in various different channels depending on what it is that I'm announcing or who I'm trying to hang out with.
Well, hey, Noah, I really appreciate your time. I know how slammed you are, and I appreciate you taking time out to answer some questions and help kind of define the space for folks that are lovers of art. And so I really appreciate your time this morning, man.
Totally my pleasure, Craig. Thank you so much.
Now, the news. So, speaking of NFTs, the Hermitage has gotten into the NFT game. As the State Museum of Russia, the Hermitage was founded by Catherine the Great in 1764 and is housed in what was the Tsar's Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. The museum boasts one of the world's great art collections, including works by all the heavyweights of art history. So, NFTs. The museum recently conducted an experiment by selling digital versions of 5 masterpieces in the collection as NFTs on the Binance NFT marketplace. The works included in the project, which was titled Your Token is Kept in the Hermitage, included Leonardo da Vinci's Madonna Litta, Judith by Giorgione, Vincent van Gogh's Lilac Bush, Vasily Kandinsky's Composition 6, and Corner of the Garden at Montgeron by Claude Monet. The concept of the experiment is actually a concept I've been debating recently with art friends, which is the concept of what one would call digital deaccessioning. If it's unacceptable to the public and museum organizations to deaccession specific works that have been left to an institution to be stewarded over, might it be more acceptable to sell digital versions of the works in the collection to raise funds for ongoing expenses and preservation? Some might immediately say yes. Others say we need to slow down and think a little bit more about this. There are certain legal questions in play, but the biggest question mark for those that are truly forward-thinking is whether a museum would be sabotaging its future by doing so. Many see a vast opportunity in the metaverse and believe that museums should be planning now for what their virtual versions will consist of. In their eyes, by selling NFTs from the collection, a museum is robbing itself of the digital assets it should have in its virtual museum someday. Regardless of which side you're on, the sale was completed last week, bringing in a little over $440,000. It was announced recently that MoMA plans to have an exhibit in the near future around one of its most popular pieces in its collection, Henri Matisse's The Red Studio. Because the painting is of Matisse's studio, there are various Matisse paintings in a variety of states of completion sprinkled throughout the work. The event will bring together all of those paintings to be exhibited together. It's all very meta and should prove to be a very popular exhibit. And now a story about fake bacon. Actually, it's a story about fake bacons, Francis Bacon. Italian authorities seized nearly 500 paintings suspected of being forged works by Francis Bacon, along with other cash and valuables at the scene that totaled nearly 3 million euros. The suspect at the center of the investigation is a collector from Bologna who has been the subject of 2 other investigations in the last 3 years. As a result of the most recent investigation, 5 people have been charged with criminal conspiracy to authenticate and circulate fake works of art and fraud and money laundering. Which brings to mind another excellent art documentary I recently consumed on Netflix called Made You Look, a true story about fake art, which chronicles the downfall of the blue-chip gallery Knoedler & Company and whether director Anne Friedman was a willing participant or an embarrassed victim. I suggest watching the documentary and making your own determination. That's all the time we have for this week. You've been listening to Art Sense. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. If you've enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe, and while you're there, please rate the show and leave a quick review. Your feedback is the key to other folks finding us. If you'd like to see images related to the conversation, read a transcript, and find other bonus features, you can go to cambia.art and click on the podcast tab. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can email me at craig@cambia.art. Thanks for listening.